you consulting us? Consulting when I ask you questions.
This one comes from commission is my own statement. Because I declare
I think that's the way very limited.
The walking with the statements?
I have advised others to construct a statement of necessary.
As it pleases. I must be careful.
Well, they can see the evidence that gave on the previous occasion. I'm sorry now. This is the evidence, so it's really the coroner's inquest. That's correct.
that is correct.
Evidence given at the coroner's inquest. You have a copy of it?
Yes.
ER2? And ER2.
No, it's all right. What I'm saying, if a witness wishes to refresh themselves, they could ask to do so. But it's not normal that you are asking a witness and then the witness looks down at a piece of paper. That can't be the reason why we're here. So, if he wishes to refresh his memory, we must know that he wishes to do that, and so we consult a statement. But it's this uncertain that when I ask him, I realize it is nothing known. And that would defeat the whole purpose. But anyway.
If you have any objections, the question is never from evidence that he gave our own.
No, but you must ask to do so, sir. I have difficulty if every question I ask me concerns some document. Because we're trying to get to the truth here, and we wouldn't like that if people just prepare things to come in and try to memorize or read from them when you ask them the question.
If you don't have any objection, I don't understand if you have any.
No, you said it's a statement for reflection. I will continue. I will serve the observation I made is concerning.
I'm grateful.
But
He is really concerned either the statement he gave to the commission or any statement that he would have given in oath at any previous hearing that it's a long time ago, and it's only fair that he should be able to refresh his memory.
no, I don't have difficulty with that. At least you should be alerted if he needs to refresh his memory on his mind.
He's not a professional witness, and maybe he did not know that he had a state commission. But commission is now granted.
Yes. Now, Mr. Rodney, are you aware and Gary Smith spoke? That he spoke of Dr. Rodney, he advised on the use of walkie-talkies by his brother and military advisor.
I read somewhere in the text where it speaks about having discussion with one.
No, answer my question. Specifically saying that Dr. Rodney, the late Dr. Rodney, was being advised on the use of the walkie-talkie by his brother and military advisor. That's on page 29 of paragraph 2 of that, which is the evidence.
I think that question would be best answered by Dr. Smith himself.
No, I was asking, could you answer my question? You're a big man and you should respect these proceedings. Could you not answer the question? Are you aware in that book that Dr. Rodney, that they still say Dr. Rodney was being advised on the use of the walkie-talkie by his brother and military advisor?
I am not aware of that.
Now you have admitted before us that you consider yourself an expert on walkie-talkies.
presented evidence that I am an operator. I have experience as an operator. An expert is someone who manufactures these devices.
All right, knowledgeable about what we talk.
That's it.
And you would agree that no other brother has that ability.
I won't be able to say.
You don't know what your brothers do?
I won't be able to say any other brother bought another knowledge. All I is for myself, I am an operator's exposure and experience.
No, your Rodney brothers, your immediate family, your siblings, did any of them have similar exposure to walkie-talkies in the army, any army, as you told us that you had?
Not as far as I know.
But I suggest to you that you are your brother's advisor in relation to the operating of a walkie-talkie and a walkie-talkie system.
That suggestion is misplaced and absolutely false.
And could I further suggest to you, it's because of your advice to your brother in that regard, you could have concluded that the Negro man who was found in the vehicle was Dr. Walter.
That suggestion is also misplaced and partially false.
This is well on that, I didn't have to speak, but you were putting to him a premise which you rejected. Your second question was based on the rejected premise. I just wanted to remind you about that.
Well, you know, Mr. Chairman, you know, I sat in this commission and I listened to a plethora of inadmissible evidence being admitted, hearsay being admitted, double hearsay, second-hand knowledge. And then I thought we said it would be a question of weight at the end of the day. But I find that when I'm asking a question,
these are two different points. One of my information was only a comment about parents. Did you beat your mother? No, I did not. And yet this following question proceeds on the premise that you beat your mother, which was just rejected by the witness.
no, I believe the truth. I divided it up. I didn't put everything in one time. I divided it. And that's why I put it to him. I'm showing him that the only reason, and I raised that before, he could have heard the broadcast saying a Negro man who died in a vehicle was because he knew that Walter was experimenting with the walkie-talkie. That's what I was going to
This is my
say.
only point, and I've found myself in your position several times. But fairness requires, and I always do it, I said, you have rejected my premise. Notwithstanding that, I seek the legal tribunal to proceed on that rejected premise with this question. So you are learning this in the fact that you are acknowledging that you rejected the premise, and it is only fair that you say that notwithstanding the rejected premise. I ask you for that exercise. That's the only point I would make.
I got it,
It's
Mr.
an
Chairman.
issue of fair play.
Yeah, I'm guiding Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Yes. That's my question to you. When you heard it broadcast, when you were in prison, about the Negro man was found in the vehicle, you could have only concluded it was Dr. Rodney or Donald because you knew they were experimenting with the walkie-talkies.
There's two aspects to your question. Let me answer the last one first. I have absolutely no knowledge whatsoever that they were experimenting or carrying out any tests or whatever you want to describe it with a walkie-talkie. The other part of the question, which is, I heard it on the radio in the police station. Now, if the police didn't put on the radio at that time, I would have absolutely no knowledge whatsoever.
Now you're the only brother who was in the military.
You mean a regular military service unit? Yes.
That you described, because you weren't studying with me. I know he wasn't in the military.
I won't be able to say for you,
Yes.
but he will have to answer that.
So you realize then you would say that Gary Smith was unfairly favoring you, since you're the only military one who could be his brother's military advisor.
I don't know what Gregory Smith was doing. All I knew is that he had some exposure to electronics and he worked at different parts of the workshop.
Okay, let's move on. You said the House of Israel had an affiliation with the PNC,
I did.
but you never saw any membership application or form or anything like that.
You mean prior to 1980?
But you answer me, yes or no, please.
I never saw any membership form, no.
Now, are you aware that it was under the PNC that Rabbi Washington, the head of the House of Israel, was arrested?
I want to believe yes. I think it was under the White administration.
You don't believe in saying yes or no alone.
Yes.
Were you aware that it was a PNC president who charged Rabbi Washington for murder?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
A PNC president charged under him.
Very trail one need to be president as far as they
No, under him, it was under the PNC president.
I was about to make a different part.
So you have to fear him, right? You know who president started?
You just gave me, no doubt.
President
They take the PNC. A witness said, I take the PNC killed Rodney. So what fairness you talking about?
Up to language, more precisely, but it's let's get off of that.
Yes. Yeah, are you aware of that?
Yes.
It was under a PNC president that Rabbi Washington was charged for murder.
Yes.
Are you further aware that Rabbi Washington appealed after he was convicted?
I read something with yes.
And are you aware that on appeal the sentence was increased?
I think I also read something about that, yes.
And during that period, you said there was paramountcy of the party.
Yes, the paramountcy of the party existed at that time, perhaps in a far lesser degree than during the Gordon years, or the Gordon dictation, but it still existed. And it existed even after White passed.
And did you see anything wrong with a party treating its affiliates like that?
If I saw anything wrong,
Yes.
political parties and leaderships change, policies change for different reasons. There are opportunist reasons, there's self-interest, there's a whole host of factors that one needs to consider with regards to policy changes.
I just wanted to bring that debate to you about the affiliation. Now, you said that your brother was killed by agents of the state.
Yes, I did.
Of course, you speculated.
Oh, this is a speculation based on hard facts.
Okay, let's deal with the hard facts.
Well,
Was there anyone else in that vehicle with your brother that night? When that explosion
it was
occurred?
accompanied by Donald.
So there were only your two brothers in the vehicle.
That's correct.
You're aware that Donald told another senior member of the WPA it was a terrible accident.
I'm not aware of that, I was not there.
No, we know you're not here.
I was not aware, no.
Are you aware from where you're standing that in this commission of inquiry that a staunch member of the WPA, Ms. Cardi Souza, told this commission that after that accident, Donald came to her door and said, there's been a terrible accident.
Yes, he may well have done that. I'm not aware, I was not there.
And what's your understanding of the meaning of the word accident is?
Well, in Oxford, precise and concise dictionary, it says that accidents represent something that is untoward, something that could have been avoided but did occur. That's my understanding of an accident. Like, for example, a car accident, or a plane accident, or a ferry boat accident.
But we're not talking about those things. We're talking about the death of your brother. His other brother, your other brother, described as a terrible accident.
Yes, he would have done so. In a state of shock that he was in, having been led to believe that he had something that was something else.
But certainly,
You would have said that. I would have said it.
certainly,
You would have said it.
certainly you would have been speaking the truth then.
I would be able to say it. I never said anything about led to believe that I had something that wasn't what it was. In my state of shock, I would be able to say it's an accident.
But in the case of an accident, you agree that you cannot repose in any individual blame for that occurrence.
When it comes to that, I think that answer must come from the legal and forensic people.
Why? It's an accident that no one is blameworthy.
No,
You can't pinpoint an agent of the state. He said it's a terrible accident.
So what you expect is, I was not there. I'm saying that perhaps if I was in the same position, I would have said the same thing.
No,
if I'd been led to believe that I had a walkie-talkie, and I'd explode it. It's a natural thing to do, especially when in a state of shock.
So are you now saying and acknowledging that as a fact that you had a walkie-talkie?
No.
No,
Not like that.
We all over the place. Right?
No. This is about complete discretion. You're trying to put the cart before the horse. I'm saying that it was killed by an anti-personal device.
Anyway, the question we're addressing now is the meaning. What you understand what accident means.
I've answered that.
And do you agree that however you answer it is not synonymous with reposing blame in any agent of the state or any agent of anybody? He could have said, whoever, the agent of the state, or they killed Rodney or something. But he never tried to apportion blame. He simply said, it's a terrible accident. Do you agree with that?
I agree that you did say that.
I have no more questions to listen to this.
I'm not sure that we got the answer. You did it to being comfortable before you was complete.
So the answer, he said no.
What's your thought? That's it. I can hear you respond. I heard your voice when you were still speaking.
It's on the record.
Mr. Rodney, did you answer the question that was last posed?
Learned Commissioner, I would very much appreciate if it comes to the phase of I'm not talking to the question.
Did you answer the question? I didn't have it wasn't heard here.
But you don't have to
It was an
answer.
accident. I told him I gave him my understanding of an accident. I also told him that the other man said that.
No. I heard all of that. What I did hear was the last question posed. Did you answer?
No, I don't. Look, I answered that question.
Okay, it wasn't heard here.
So I rely on the record of his answer.
But if you heard an answer, you can share it with us.
No, he agreed with my question. That he could have, yes, he could have apportioned blame. Very well. if he says it's a terrible accident, that he admitted that they tried to fix blame on it.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, you're finished.
I guess that's if you were answering yes or no to the question.
Don't be too hard on the baby. You can control the question back. That's control the response. Object as a lawyer for many years.
If there are no other questions from other council, I wish to ask some further questions.
Mr. Chairman, I do have some questions for the witness. I'm Sullivan Peters, or the GTUC.
See, this is a video. I walked a little bit for that. I walked a little bit. Okay, thank you. Mr. Peters, floor is yours.
Good morning, Mr. Rodney.
Good morning.
I have a few questions for you. Mr. Rodney, you testified earlier at one of the previous sittings that the Guyana Trade Union Congress had made a parade that went to Congress. Please, do you recall that evidence?
I do in all of my statements, yes.
And Mr. Rodney, can I suggest to you that the evidence that you provided with respect, you may have your evidence.
Would you elaborate?
Well, I'm going to suggest to you that, well, I'm going to not suggest, I'm going to put to you that GTUC, the Guyana Trade Unions Congress, never had a May-Day rally that went to Congress.
No, not the Congress place, the National Park. The National Park encompasses.
Sorry, the National Park encompasses?
Encompasses.
Oh, I see, very well. I'm going to suggest to you, okay, so I accept your evidence in that aspect. I'm going to suggest to you that the House of Israel was never a part of the GTUC May-Day rallies.
Mr. Nelson.
And that our witness, Mr. Lewis, will testify that the House of Israel never marched as part of any contingent at its rally during the material time for which you spoke.
That's Mr. Lewis's prerogative.
And that you was mistaken when you gave that evidence before the tribunal.
I was not mistaken.
Now, you spoke about the posture of the WPA at the material time, and part of that posture was the removal of the government of the day by any means necessary. Do you recall that evidence?
Yes, I recall that.
And part of by any means necessary would have invoked violence. Would you agree?
I do recall mentioning yes, violence, but I also said let's focus on a general strike. A general strike being a complete general strike.
Right, and okay, that's fine. There were a number of strategies you would agree that the WPA had. Well, Dr. Rodney had postulated in terms of dealing with the government of the day.
There were a number of industrial disputes, yes. He was involved in a number of industrial disputes, in one way or the other, yes.
Were you at the September 1979 rally where Dr. Rodney gave the wide-ranging speech that spoke about removal of the government by violence, if any other means, could not accomplish the removal of the government?
I wasn't at that particular rally, but I learned about it.
And the speech was published on the internet and widely. Have you ever took the opportunity to read that speech?
If I recall correctly, I read part of that speech in Korean contact.
Right. And the speech specifically stated that comrades should be mobilized and be prepared to use violence if necessary.
It may well have contained that particular phrase, yes.
It also spoke about, as you said, industrial actions, including strikes.
General strikes, yes.
And it also spoke with respect to removal of persons from their positions within government who oppose the government.
It would have most likely carried that slant, yes.
And you would agree that part of the prerogative of any administration, especially within the upper echelons, are to control who are in those positions.
Are you speaking about the state?
I'm speaking about the state, yes.
Yes, the state has a prerogative. It also has a duty to protect its citizens.
Right, and the Constitution would have had service commissions that dealt with appointments.
Yes.
And whether it's within the Army or the Police Service Commission, there was a process for appointing and dismissal and discipline of officers.
At that time, yes, there was such commissions.
But you would also agree that whether it's the Burnham government or the Jagan government or the Jagiel government or the Ramatar government, all of those leaders as commanders-in-chief have the prerogative as well to determine who occupy the positions in the upper hierarchy of the military and the police.
Yes, but there is a process of consultation with the opposition, with consultation with other stakeholders. It is not vested only in the president as commander-in-chief.
And there goes the acting positions for prolonged periods where the government of the day and the opposition reach an impasse with respect to their consultations.
Well, the impasse could result from a number of reasons. It could result from the negative reaction of stakeholders. It could result from the fact that the name submitted to the president is not acceptable, from a number of factors to be responsible. But the consultation process is inherent in that process, in that decision making.
The Constitution at the time when Dr. Rodney died was the 1966 Constitution. You'd agree?
I think there was some amendment that came about around about 1978, but I'm not certain whether they were implemented.
Well, as amended, we can accept. You'd also agree that the Constitution of 1980 is a Constitution that brought the paramountcy clause, or paramountcy of the party above everything else.
The Constitution of 1980 may have deepened what took place in 1974, when paramountcy was first announced or proclaimed at Sophia, or the Declaration of Sophia.
Right, but the Declaration of Sophia was not law. It was simply a doctrine of a political party in power.
I've said that too.
Now, you, and that was part of your evidence, you worked for the government for a significant period of time while the Burnham government was in power.
I worked with the government, yes, for a period of time.
And you were not dismissed from your employment.
Well, I wouldn't say dismissed. No, I wasn't dismissed.
And you are aware that numerous activists within the WPA were dismissed from their employment.
Yes, I was aware. The announcement of WPA at that time, ACTA, if I recall correctly. ACTA and some other lesser organizations, they were harassed and dismissed.
Right, but I was just focusing on the WPA as a party.
Correction, ASPIR.
Okay, so you're not aware then of WPA activists being dismissed from their employment?
In answer to your question, you couldn't really make a distinction. I would have to say yes, ASPIR, WPA. Couldn't make a distinction between the two.
Okay, let me narrow down the period for you so that we don't get into speaking about the material time within the mandate of the Commission 1978 to 1980. And so I think you've answered my question, so I'm not going to ask you again unless you feel that you want to address it within that material time. Whether you're aware of WPA activists. And I'm going to suggest to you, because the Commission has the evidence that they are activists who were dismissed from their employment because of their affiliation with the WPA.
Yes.
You're aware of that?
Over that decade, yes.
And you're also aware that the state had and continue to have a security apparatus that monitor political activists, the special branch of the Ghana Police Force.
I'm aware of that, yes.
And you're aware that activists of the WP at the material time were subject to surveillance by the special branch of the Ghana Police Force.
As one component, yes. Surveillance, harassment, intimidation, whatever. Yes.
Well, surveillance.
Yes, yes.
I don't think the reports that the Commission has speak to the harassment. The activities of the WPA are monitored and reported upwards. Now, to the best of your recollection, you don't recall ever being surveilled by...
Was that a question? Why speak it? But you put a question to him that activities were reported upwards. He never answered. Was that intended to be a question?
Well, let me ask him that, Mr. Chairman. Sir, were you aware of that the activities of the activists were reported upwards?
Meaning, if there was a reported, if you like, process going towards the security chief and perhaps their overseers? Yes.
It goes from the sergeant or the corporal in the field to the commissioner of police.
Yeah, well, that knowledge of mine would be limited to what I could see. I had no internal foreknowledge of that person. All I know is that records were taken of meetings and that there was surveillance taking place.
And were you ever the subject of surveillance by this special branch of the Ghana Police Force?
Yes.
You were?
Yes.
And are you aware of whether the Ghana Police Force special branch still conducts surveillance on political activists?
I wouldn't be aware of that.
Are you aware of any state apparatus that exists currently that conducts surveillance on political activists, particularly opposition parties?
No, I wouldn't be aware of that.
Mr. Peters, did I hear you say no?
Yes.
That's outside of our terms of reference.
I appreciate it.
Why are you asking that question?
I appreciate that, Mr. Member. You spoke about anti-personnel devices.
Okay.
And what is it that I don't think Mr. Williams asked you that question, what is it that you know about these particular devices?
Okay, as I said before, I was not a bomb expert. But from my experience in the military, we generally know that anti-personnel devices can be different types. They could be benign, which means that it's sort of acoustic, you step in it and it explodes. Or it could be thrown and it explodes. Or it could be set off or triggered by a remote control mechanism. That's the device that destroys an individual or two or three, no more. It is anti-personnel, meaning a person, as opposed to a bomb or a grenade.
At any point, you already stated in your evidence that the WPA were proponents or at least proposed violence in some form to remove the government if other means were not available to it, or if other means didn't achieve that purpose.
and this is very applicable, you're speaking with Dr. Rodney, and now you're posing to me the WPA. I know what Rodney was said at meetings. I know what perhaps Quayana said. But the WPA as an organization, that's a different thing altogether.
Well, Dr. Rodney put forth he was the public face of the doctrine of the WPA or of the actions or roadmap of the WPA at the material time, was he not?
Dr. Rodney was the main leader of the WPA. But Rodney wasn't the only WPA. That's the point they're making.
Right. There were a number of activities in Georgetown where WPA members were charged. We know that Dr. Rodney was one of those persons.
Being charged, arrested?
Arrested and
Yes.
faced criminal prosecution.
Yes.
And some of them involved bombings.
Not as far as I know.
There was a firebombing of the Ministry of National Development.
Yes, I'm aware of that. And I'm not certain whether the question you posed about the round job shop, the arrests that were made were for holding meetings or for not having the permission at the time or something of the sort. I'm not aware of a round job shop with bombings.
Well, the WPA members of the WPA were charged with bombing of the Ministry of National Development or National Mobilization.
It pleases the Commission, I believe that would be a misrepresentation. The charges, in fact, were arson as opposed to bombing.
I stand corrected. I'll use the term that my friend suggests, arson. You were aware of that particular situation.
I was aware of that. It's episode, yes.
Did you ever have discussions with Dr. Walter Rodney with respect to that particular issue in question?
None whatsoever.
No? And did you ever, I know my friend posed questions to you just now with respect to being a security advisor to Dr. Rodney. And you said you were not.
That's correct. I said I was not.
Were you aware that the WPA, well, let's deal with the walkie-talkie situation. You would accept that that was not a walkie-talkie in the traditional sense of the word. That was a crude instrument constructed with wood and a number of other mechanisms.
In the functional and technical sense, it was not a walkie-talkie. Yes.
Right. And the material that Dr. Rodney had in his possession was constructed, as you said. You used the word placebo the last time. You remember that?
I recall that, yes.
Right. You said it was a placebo.
Yes.
And were you aware that the WPA were constructing these materials or these devices to look like walkie-talkie, but were in fact anti-personnel devices, as you say they were?
Before witness answers, could we just pause your way? Now this is fast for us, both of you. So I just want to get that question. But you have been going pretty fast.
You have your foot on the gas as it were, you're going quite speedily. I don't even know if those who are recording can keep up with you. So slow down a bit, please.
Mr. Chairman, I should have recognized that when I'm sitting, I need to keep up with my notes. So I apologize.
Okay.
When you're ready, let me know.
Perhaps you may make them pose the question again, since you did interrupt me with start with that without it necessary. So the Lord gives you to speak. Mr. Rodney, you wish to hear the question again?
I'm quite ready for it. I'm quite ready for that question.
Yes, okay, please.
put the question here, please.
Mr. Rodney, were you aware that the placebo devices, or the placebo device that was constructed was not a walkie-talkie in the traditional sense, but was an anti-personnel device?
Yes, it was not a walkie-talkie in the functional and technical sense. It was something other than what it was.
Yes. And from reading the Smith book, that book stated that Dr. Rodney was certainly given instructions or warned against certain actions being taken with respect to that device, and he didn't heed the warnings that Mr. Smith provided to him.
I do recall reading that in the text.
Was Dr. Rodney a person who would not listen to advice from his advisors?
To the best of my knowledge, he wasn't that type of person. We would always discuss, especially in terms of holding meetings, speaking to people, organizing workshops, lectures. He would always consult.
Would Dr. Rodney have disregarded the advice of Mr. Smith or former Army Sergeant Smith if he told him that the device that he had in his possession was unstable?
I wouldn't be in a position to say.
Were you aware at the material time of any efforts by the WPA or Dr. Walter Rodney to construct anti-personnel device?
I was not aware of such.
Were you aware of what the forms of violence against the state would have been by Dr. Rodney and the WPA?
But here again, I must answer your question specifically. I mentioned earlier, Rodney believes that people's solidarity was itself a form of anti-violence. It was a form of defense. Solidarity with people, unity with people, organization with people, stay at home, work slows, strikes, a general strike. That itself manifested, if you like, in a Gandhian state, in a way like Gandhi did, a refusal to accept education, and that manifested, if you like, people's violence, if you could put it that way.
Right, and Dr. Rodney did quote Gandhi in September of 1979 when he stated that Gandhi said that if peaceful means didn't achieve its purpose, violence could have been a last resort.
He may have done that. I wouldn't put it past him. He may well have said that.
Certainly you would accept if it was true that the charges of arson would have fit within that pattern of violence.
I won't be able to see.
Those are all my questions for the witness, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Jim? With your leaving, I just have one.
Yes, please proceed, Mr. Pilgrim.
Mr. Rod, Chair, perhaps I should inquire, what is your best policy? How is as council standing or something?
Well, I feel comfortable with stand or sit. I wouldn't sit stand there. I feel comfortable with the witnesses.
I'm very good, Chair. That remains seated for now.
Some of us think better when we stand.
cross-examination, Mr. Rodney, from Learning by Mr. Williams, you indicated that you were arrested on the Friday before this incident and charged with murder, that's correct?
Friday evening of the actual incident.
The actual incident.
Yeah. I was in charge. I was held pending trial. That was the actual words.
How did you
held pending trial?
How did you feel about that accusation or that being held, how you're being held? How did you feel about that?
Actually, you know, the circumstances under which it happened, with just myself, the officer, and the sergeant, I was the sergeant. You know, I just felt that it was futile to say anything else, to do anything.
Did you feel you were being treated fairly?
Not really. I knew I hadn't done anything. Therefore, I just thought it was a ludicrous action. It just came to my mind, this is an absurdity. It was an absurd regime. At least that's the impression I got.
So this was consistent with the way that you felt you and others were being treated in that period?
I would say so, yes. On suspicion, being held, you know, things like that.
Was any evidence drawn to your attention as to why you were being held?
No, sir.
Was it your view that at that time, in that period, that persons other than yourself, including Dr. Walter Rodney, were being similarly targeted?
I was aware of this.
And you had personal knowledge of acts by persons who you understood to be acting for the state?
Well, to answer your question, there were a series of, if you like, incidents throughout 79 after the murder of Rodney, which made very clear that one had to be extraordinarily careful in what one did. Therefore, it was the environment, the atmosphere, a set of conditions which impressed upon people that when something like that happens, you just say, okay, you haven't done anything. Let's see where the process leads.
Were you aware of any incidents of this type involving visits by officers of the state to the home of Dr. Walter Rodney?
No. As far as I'm aware.
Were you aware of Dr. Walter Rodney himself ever being targeted?
Yes. No occasions.
What form would that targeting take?
Mainly when he was addressing public meetings, there was a Campbell incident, and there were some other incidents where he was being targeted.
Nothing further.
There were a number of incidents where he was being targeted. Public meetings, picketings. When he was in prison, he was held in prison for some time. So the targeting took place over a period of time. There wasn't just one single, solitary, or even unique incident. It was a series of incidents.
Thank you. Grateful to you, Chair.
Thank you, Doctor. Anyone else?
Yes, please, Mr. Chairman. I do feel more comfortable with my hands.
Would you remind us of your representation?
I represent the interests of Donald McCoy.
Yes.
You said that when you were arrested on that fateful night, Friday night, June 1980, June 13th, that when you spoke to the police, you did that in the context of protecting your brother. For that, when you answered them as you did.
That's the following morning.
At any time, did Donald ask you or requested you to say anything to the police to protect him?
No.
That on your own volition. position?
No, I acted in the sense that I was aware that there was a corpse there. As I said before, I knew it was altered. But when the policeman said to me, which one is this? I recognized that they wanted to get the lead perhaps to the person who had survived.
I understand.
Yes. So I said I didn't know. So it was a natural reaction without him having to tell me anything.
That's what I mean. So you acted naturally to protect your brother.
Yes.